It is December 2024. Can you believe it? Everybody out there in the Bosshole Transformation Nation, this year is coming to an end, and what a remarkable year it's been. Hey everybody, this is your co-host John Brewer, and joining me in a little bit is going to be the ever amazing and remarkable Sarah Best, and we're just doing a year-end episode to close out 2024 and give our managers and our supervisors out there some food for thought, reflect back on the amazing things that have happened this past year, but more importantly, really think about what do we need to do to get ready for 2025. We are so appreciative of all of you out there. We're going to take a little holiday break. We're going to give ourselves a few weeks, spend time with family and friends, and take inventory of all the amazing things that have been going on. And then we will pick back up with more programming on the Bosshole Chronicles in 2025. But let's just have a chat with Sarah. The Bosshole Chronicles are brought to you by Real Good Ventures, a talent optimization firm helping organizations diagnose their most critical people and execution issues with world-class analytics. Make sure to check out all the resources in the show notes and be sure to follow us and share your feedback. Enjoy today's episode. Sarah, can you believe it is December 2024? Do you believe that?
John, do not believe that. It's shocking. It's exciting. It's a little scary, but yeah, I didn't realize it would go so fast.
It got here so fast. And we want to welcome everybody to what is going to be our last episode of 2024. We're going to take a little holiday break and just enjoy time with family and friends and reflecting back on an amazing year. We wanted to do this episode specifically reaching out to our managers out there, our supervisors that have been working so hard to stay out of the Bosshole Zone this year. And we thought, hey, maybe we can provide a little bit of guidance about reflecting back on what's been good and challenging. And we'd like to share some of our own with you and then think forward to 2025. How's that sound, Sarah?
John, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Let me ask you, Sarah, when you think about some really significant things in 2024 as it relates to helping managers stay out of the Bosshole Zone, what are some things that stand out for you?
I think, John, top of mind is the tools provided by the conscious leadership group, that being above the line, below the line, being able to consciously choose to be present to the moment versus triggered and reactive. And we have those two episodes, recent episodes, actually, just in the last couple of months with Joyce Chen of the Conscious Leadership Group. I know that's toward the end of the year, but that's not why it stands out to me because it's recent. It's because it's profoundly impactful.
Oh, for sure. That two-parter was amazing. Joyce is so thorough in terms of helping people understand this. And I absolutely love the practical nature of that. And then, you make me think also of our good friend, Jason Lauritsen, who came back. He did that two-part episode on Teach from Your Scars. That actually got a lot of traction. Both of them did.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, when he shared with us just the realization and the vulnerability of realizing that he had reached a point where he needed some help. He needed some guidance, and he sought that out. I think that's really powerful. And as our managers and supervisors listen in to this podcast, but reflecting back on this year and thinking about, what are the things that I've done as a manager that has helped to lift up and develop and grow my direct reports. And at the same time, with just real, sober judgment, how have I stepped into the Bosshole Zone? And when did I drift in there? Because we all do it. It happens.
Yeah.
And I think Jason's admonition about that self-reflection and really seeking out that help and realizing he needed to go through a reset. I would say if you're thinking about the year past and getting ready for the year ahead, that'd be another great one to listen to.
I concur wholeheartedly. His story is going to resonate with people because I think, a lot of us are still struggling. We have these periods of up and down, but the constant state of stress, I just heard this yesterday on a different podcast. It was actually Mel Robbins. The idea that 80% of us still have stress, like stuck, the stress response is stuck in our body from the
Mm,
pandemic
mm,
due to prolonged fight or flight. Like this, it's supposed to last a short period of time. It lasted what, 3 years? And so in the spirit of, gosh, there's not something wrong with you. Managers have really borne the brunt of the stress in many cases through the challenges and the change curve of these organizations and how they've adapted, to the post-pandemic world. So let's just agree that there's nothing wrong with you. It might be helpful to reflect. This, John, reminds me of another piece that I'm on the email list for the Ready, one of our
hmm.
favorite organizations. I think Aaron Dignan was in our first or second year of
Yeah.
episodes. His is a really good one about a brave new work, trust and autonomy versus command and control. But in his case, and maybe we can dig into this in a quick minute, but the significance of reflection, the cost of not reflecting. And that's
Mm,
what Jason did to, he took time, he pulled back to evaluate, to go inward, and leaders have to make time to do that. I
yeah.
hope everyone can do that sometime over the next, 2 to 3 weeks. I'm actually, John, you and I talked about this yesterday. I'm going to block out the first week of January so that I can get through the holiday time and then really do some important things without jumping right back into the hustle and bustle of the heavy duty client work. Like there has to be some more time to build things out and have reflection.
Right. And I think some people would view that as a luxury, as saying,
Yeah.
"Wow, I just can't do that." Actually, really, you can't. I actually think that no, with discipline and with an understanding, talking to your direct reports, talking to your
Yeah.
organization, saying, "Listen, I'm literally going to block out this time." And by the way, this could be sort of a change in your calendar, not allowing your time to be consumed by others so readily,
Yeah.
because what we did learn from, was it Bill Schedinger? Wow, that was October of 23. Holy crap. So I'm actually going to go. Okay, so if you remember from Bill Schedinger, now this was October of 23. That was a two-parter, but he talked about power to the middle and how the middle managers are really burning out. I mean, there's a huge amount of stress right there.
Yeah.
So for our managers out there, the discipline of quiet time, of time to reflect, it shouldn't be just a 1 year thing. But can you build that into your week so that
Yeah.
you can pause and not turn your mind off, but at
Right.
least sort of focus your mind on those things that are the highest and best use of your time? Because you know what I think about, Sarah, we've used this analogy a lot, but anybody that's ever flown on an airplane, you know that when they're going through the safety protocol, what do they say? If you're flying with a child, when the oxygen mask drops down, what do you do?
Yeah. You put the mask on yourself, right?
Absolutely. Because if you aren't sustaining yourself, you can't help anybody else. So I think
Hmm.
that's so right. So let's go back. I mean, let's go back to the Ready. You had they've
Yeah.
got some great suggestions in there, and would you share that with everybody?
Two quick factoids. They start by talking about urgency as an epidemic, but 77% of participants in a recent pretty giant survey they did said they face some urgent task at least every week. There's some
Mm,
urgency, and 62% feel pressure to prioritize urgency over efficiency. And we know what happens when we're working quickly but not effectively or efficiently.
right.
But the impact of this urgency crisis creates certainly excessive burnout and frustration because it's this constant lock and load.
Hmm.
But they do say the time for reflection that we're talking about that managers need to build in is a way to stop. They call it the swirl. Stop the swirl in its tracks. Like stop, notice, tune into what are the patterns, and then really evaluate where's the urgency coming from. Is it a direction from a boss? Is it a perceived need of the client?
Hmm.
Is it something I'm generating out of fear? Like, I don't want to lose this opportunity. I don't want to look bad. So I think there's power in that. And then the thing they recommend, John, as we move ahead to 2025, I love this. How to prevent a churny start to 2025.
Oh, I
Thank
like
you.
that.
I would like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They call this an ICBD session.
Okay.
ICBD, which stands for intentions, concerns, boundaries, and dreams. This is actually an exercise that you should, a conversation you should conduct with your team before your next project, or let's say before your next work cycle kicks off, which will be the
Mm-hmm.
new year. It's the opportunity to allow people to speak these ideas that are often unspoken, or we forget to even say what's our intention with this? What do we want
Right.
to end up with when we're done? And what concerns do we have? John, you and I know firsthand from our work with our clients that those are the things that do not get mentioned or
Right.
discussed, at
That's
least
true.
not at the team table. They get talked about in the back channel and one-on-one with other people in no way that produces any measurable way to address it or respond.
Mm-hmm.
So ICBD session. And I think, John, let's make sure we put in the show notes a link to this little paragraph about how to hold one of these sessions. And there's a handout. The Ready actually created a handout
Mm.
people can use to capture their intentions, their concerns, their boundaries, and their dreams.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes and
Yeah.
make sure to go in there and do that. We should really have Aaron Dignan back on. He was such an amazing guest. It was so nice to meet him
Yeah.
at Optima a few years ago, and he was so gracious to be on here. They're doing some really cool work. Well, speaking of people that are going to come back to the Boss Hole Chronicles, best-selling author Kim Scott. Now, this was back in, I think, the spring of 23. Kim joined
Mhm.
us to talk about her book Radical Candor, and she's got a new book called Radical Respect. And I just am teeing this up because she is going to be joining us in the new year, the new season in 2025, and we're excited about that. She's so practical, and just speaks very clearly and helps people understand how to work together much better.
John, speaking of Kim Scott, I want to direct people to Amazon Prime, where I discovered the first ever movie book. Like it's called "What Is Radical Candor" by Kim Scott, and it's actually a animated movie that explains the principles of radical candor.
Oh,
Can
okay.
like you can share it with your team. I think it's only an hour long. You can rent it or buy it. Fascinating stuff, and she's just so cool to listen to. It's
Yeah,
like a
that'll
little
be.
documentary thing.
Oh, I know. That'll be a great one. And some other things for 2025. Actually, when I reflect back on really quick, Sarah, 2024, we started out 2024 with our 5-part series on emotional intelligence. I think that was one of our best series. And then this year, we started a new series on the 17 reference profiles. And I will tell you, the response to that has been great. People
Mhm.
are loving it. And the whole idea is helping managers or anybody for that matter understand their behavioral DNA specifically to their reference profiles, which we always invite people to go to the link in the show notes, complete the PI behavioral assessment. We'll send you your 1-page reference profile description. We're going to continue with that in 2025. And so, what you're going to hear from us in 2025, the programming is going to probably feel a little bit different. We're going to do the reference profiles. We're going to have subject matter expert episodes. We'll do our roundtables. We're probably going to be dropping in and spreading out our episodes a little bit more, but we're going to be dropping in some shorts around, and I give Sarah credit for this, what we've entitled "You Might Be a Boss Hole If." And just I think we've dropped a few of those on our Instagram channel. I think we got to put them up here on this platform simply because I think they're going to be really helpful. So these are things that we're working on for 2025. Yeah.
So you might be a boss hole if you are just waiting for a problematic employee to decide they need to leave. There have been at least five
Oh,
times this year, John, in work with our clients across the board here.
oh yeah.
I've encountered that, and a leader has said something to that effect. Like, I think we're just going to wait this one out. Eventually they're going to get tired of this and leave. And to that, I want to say this kind of coincides with I was hoping we could end today when we're done here with, what's one piece of advice going into 2025. And mine was going to be give people the gift of the truth. Give them
Hmm.
the feedback. They deserve to know what others experience working with them, and they deserve for people to be honest and candid with them because otherwise they don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyhow, there's my take on you might be a boss hole if.
Yeah, that's true. Similar to that, we'll talk about this in the new year. Pretty much knowing that you've got the wrong person in the wrong role and thinking that you could provide all kinds of training or direction or whatever and hope to change that person. We've talked about this so many times,
Yeah.
and you know it's not going to happen.
But
Yeah,
here's the thing, John, what's worse than like it's even worse than what you describe. It's often the case not that they want to give them training and
right.
help them grow skills. They expect them to do all the work.
Yeah,
Something is wrong with them because they're not a good fit and
yep.
something's wrong with their character or they're not trying hard enough. Anyhow, we're going down a little rabbit hole here. But maybe John, maybe that's where we should go next. What's a piece of advice you would share as people head into 2025? Like one thing for our managers to keep top of mind to make sure that they do to stay out of the boss hole zone.
That's a great question. I think back on so many of the episodes we've had around authenticity and courage, and even from Dr. Jeremy Pollack, the peace building leader. I would say your capacity to be honest and truthful and authentic is huge. I think managers that try to come off as all knowing, you're just slipping right into the boss hole zone. That vulnerability is so critical. You're human.
Yeah.
And I think when
Yeah.
your direct reports see that in you, it's like, you know what? I don't. Bill Gallagher just talked about this in our very recent episodes. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the answers. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. I need your help. That goes a great distance in helping bring your people together. That's not one thing. I'm sorry, that was a whole bunch of things, but
No, that's good. And I'm reminded of a client scenario earlier this year where the CEO had kind of a rougher exterior. And
yeah.
it's funny how when a CEO is kind of tough like that and tough on people, the executive leadership team usually tries really hard to take care of that person. They don't realize they're doing it, but they don't want to rock the
Oh,
boat. They don't want to hurt his or her feelings.
right.
They get kind of weird about stuff. But in any case, even though a leader can have that external rough, way of dealing with things on the outside,
Hmm.
as long as they can say and admit the truth, like this is something I know I do,
Right.
it just changes everything in the environment on the team. If they can be honest about, yeah, I know the problem is me. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's really all people sometimes need to hear. And
Yeah.
they can say, well, it's not just you. I'm part of the problem too. And then you get to solutions.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful.
It is powerful. It is powerful. And let me tell you what else is powerful, Sarah, as we wrap things up. The Boss Hole Transformation Nation is a powerful force out there. And we would
Yeah.
be remiss in terms of reflecting on these over 4 years of publishing episodes of the Boss Hole Chronicles if we did not thank all of you out there, our audience, the Boss Hole Transformation Nation. And we absolutely appreciate how you have shared and continue to promote and let people know about this podcast
Hmm.
in the spirit of helping other people get better at what they do.
Can I just interject here for a second?
Sure.
I've shared this with a few clients and maybe in a few keynote presentations, but when we talk about the podcast,
Mhm.
I can readily admit I did not want to do this. This was your brainchild. When we started Real Good Ventures, you said, "Hey, let's do this podcast."
Yeah.
We knew that we had something special with the term boss hole. You worked hard to trademark that term, but I look back now and marvel at what consistency has been created. And I have to give you the credit for the fact that the Boss Hole Chronicles is in the top 10% of podcasts globally. So I'm not trying to toot our own horn here, but the learning for me, the humility for me is you don't know everything. And just because something is scary and different or seems like it might be hard to do doesn't mean you don't do it and you don't trust people. I needed to trust you to figure out how to do this. And you've done an amazing job. So
Oh,
thanks for
well,
that.
well,
And
thank you.
congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and again, to all of our listeners, keep telling people about it and using it. We love doing it. And by the way, for somebody that maybe had not wanted to do the podcast, you're a natural, Sarah. I mean, seriously, you
Well, my icon is a microphone, John.
well,
Jeez.
that is
Just
true.
kidding.
That is true. But no,
I
but
don't mind
thank you.
talking.
Thank you everybody out there for putting us into the top 10% of podcasts around the world. It is a humbling honor. And we'll continue to work on this in 2025. Go into the show notes, check out the resources we talked about. Give us ideas. And again, here is
Yeah.
we always want to remind people that if you have a Bosshole story and you would like to share it with the Bosshole Transformation Nation, we don't use any real names. I mean, we're very careful about that because this isn't about being mean or vindictive to a former Bosshole. It is about helping people learn.
And John, can I add to that?
Yeah.
If you do have a story, we're as interested to know what helped you on your end.
Yes.
Because I do think it takes two people to tango. Even when Bossholes are alive and well, there's something that happens to us when we respond. So I also love hearing about how the individual learned. What did you learn? How did you survive and thrive through that and learn and grow?
Well, listen, everybody, we are wishing you a blessed holiday season. Sarah, have a Merry Christmas.
Thanks, John. You too. And to all our listeners, stay healthy and well, and we'll see you in 2025.
Thanks very much for checking out this episode of the Bosshole Chronicles. It was so good to have you here. And if you have your own Bosshole story that you want to share with the Bosshole Transformation Nation, just reach out. You can email us at mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. Again, mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. We'll see you next time.